Welcome to the very first Next Step Shark Tank. Should be a blast. We have a special cast with us today. For the ground rules, all right, so we got 5 minutes to pitch, 3 minutes of Q&A. We'll let that roll on a little bit if we need to. First 2 questions will go to our panel, and then the following questions will go to the audience. As far as ways that you can help, so just be thinking, is this a problem? Is this a problem you or someone you know has experienced? Think about the solutions that we're pitching up here. Do you think they're a good idea? You don't need to be an expert on anything. Anybody that's experienced these things can contribute, and any opinions are helpful. Consider resources and contacts that you may have to help these guys. So, if you think that we're pitching good ideas and you know someone that may be able to, help us out and get us to that next step, that's perfect info, and that's what we're looking for. Lastly, it's not a competition. So some folks have spent, a day working on their plan. Dan, I think, spent about an hour. So we're all at very, very different points, and other folks have spent a year. So the purpose is just to get good feedback and make connections that will get us to that next level.
Hello, everyone. First question I've got for you is, what happens if the power goes out? What happens if you have a paycheck coming in 2 weeks, but you need groceries today? Or the next Katrina happens and the government can't send supplies. What do? You just sit there, or do you have a backup plan? So I teach people sustainability, namely how to build things more effectively and cheaply so they have more of a budget for later, for rainy days, and then how to grow their own food. So if the grocery store isn't an option or government relief isn't an option, you just go into the kitchen, the pantry, the backyard, the side yard, wherever you're growing, and you've got what you need to last you as long as you need. Now, I also enjoy travel, and I'd like to make this part of my business, and I'll get more to that later. Also, the most important thing I think about this is less of a pitch and more of just a talk. I'm not really asking for capital. I'm just seeing who's interested in adopting some of these things or in working with me. And then the roundtable philosophy, we've talked a lot about good interview skills and getting a good job. I'm also interested in working with people, consulting work, as opposed to getting hired or hiring people. So a bit about myself. I've always been into inventing things. I've been very creative. I've written and drawn things since I was little. And today, that translates into a lot of designs I'm going to show you examples of here in a minute. My first business plan was actually in sustainability, though at the time I didn't know what it meant. I wanted to provide relief to the world. I wanted to clean up the environment and do things on a very grand scale. And now I'm kind of coming full circle. I stepped away from that for a while, and it's becoming more necessary for more people to go in that direction. When I was in the service, what I noticed was that, I noticed that there's a misperception about some countries right now. Like with Iraq and Afghanistan, a lot of people tend to be nervous about going there for obvious reasons. It's a wartime environment, but more specifically, they're nervous about the people there, what they believe. Are they potential friends or potential enemies? And one thing that was really good for me was going over there and seeing that 99% of them are either neutral or good. They're compatible as friends. It's the 1% that are very active for several reasons, but that's a side note. The 1% that are active that are the problem. And what I want to teach people is what I noticed when I was traveling to these other countries and helping out with the war efforts and restabilizing them. Most people, they're willing to work with you. And if you help stabilize their countries, if you teach them how to grow more food and build more cheaply, there's less desperation out there. It's less easy for people to pick on them, for insurgents, say, to convince locals to side with them instead of you. So I'm thinking, if we go to these countries and we accept the reality that most of them are good people and you can't work with them, we'll build lasting friendships, we'll stabilize them, and then we'll avoid the next war, especially if it's a war over food and water, if it's a war over resources instead of ideals. When I was faced with the possibility of not making it back, the one thing that always came back into my head was, have you written all your ideas down? Have you shared these ideas with people? All these inventions you've thought up, who is going to adopt them? Who knows about them? And because that kept coming in my head, I realized this is my calling. This is what I need to focus on. This is what always comes back to the surface. So being in the service showed me that I could work anywhere with anyone. The world isn't as bad as it seems to some people, and that I need to do this stuff I need to make this difference while I still can, because one way or the other, we all have a time we have to work with. We can't just stay around forever. So at first I was thinking about being a lifer. I wanted to be a career military guy. And when I got out, that was a very, very difficult transition for me. I tried many different jobs, many different schools. I tried living in different parts of the country. There were a lot of issues that I faced, similar to a lot of the guys in this room, I'm guessing. I had PTS. I had really bad panic attacks. And when I turned to the VA, they didn't have many options. They were overburdened. There were doctors who really cared, but they just didn't have a lot to offer people. They'd say, okay, here's a pill for this, here's a pill for that. You have side effects now, here's a pill for the side effect. That'd give you a side effect, and it kept going. And it was a perpetual problem I saw. What helped me was continuing to do what worked. I went back to my life's work. I cleared my head. I kept traveling. I kept trying new places and new approaches. And I ended up in Montana. That's when everything started to come together for me. I'd been on some VA prescriptions. I dealt with the worst things, that all people getting out of the service deal with. There were times where I'd been homeless. And one day I just said, you know what? I'm on all this stuff the VA gave me. I don't like any of it. None of this is working. I'll speed up. Yeah. Just speed through a few designs real quick. Examples of some farms and homes, communities that I've designed, built scale models. And you can see all this stuff on my site. I'll send it to you if you like. Basically, I'm asking for anyone who's interested in sustainability to share ideas and consider traveling to these places with me. There are 3 initiatives. Move Up in Missouri. They're getting veterans together and they're teaching them how to enter agriculture to take care of the coming food need. The Round the World trip, going to all the countries that are interested in teaching sustainability there, and then eventually ending up down in Antarctica because it's thawing like Greenland and Iceland have been thawing. About 40% thaw in those places, and we're seeing it down here. Tons of resources, tons of space. You can see it's huge. There's a lot of potential there. There are only a few bases around the coast. That's an analysis I did to figure out where good places would be to move in resources and build sustainable communities there for when it thaws. And then questions, comments, concerns, bitches, moans, complaints. That's what the abbreviation is. So speed through all that. Sorry I went over, but that's it. Board first.